Good morning. Welcome to day 3 of South by Southwest. Congratulations to all you early daylight saving times risers. And it is my genuine pleasure to introduce this panel, Web3 Entertainment, Animating the Blockchain. It is an incredible panel.
No, after you. No.
There you go, sir. Okay, so we have an amazing selection of speakers here this morning. This is going to be, we hope, a really great conversation about introducing you to the concepts, to what these people are doing, to what these people want to do. So we're going to start down at the end with, over there, we've got Scott Greenberg, CEO of Blockchain Creative Labs and Bento Box Entertainment. Michael Thorn, President of Entertainment at Fox Entertainment. Ben Jones, Creative Director at Bento Box Entertainment. Erick, Founder and CEO of Artblocks Inc. And Tommy Pallotta, producer of A Scanner Darkly and Apollo 10.5, A Space Age Childhood, which is debuting tonight at the Paramount as part of South by Southwest. So let's kind of get the elephant in the room out of the way with the first question. It's the term everybody's throwing around at the moment, but I think nobody always knows what we mean. So the first question is, when I say Web3, what do you think? What comes to mind? Scott, over to you. Difficult question first.
For me, Web3 is an inclusive term that includes blockchain technology, NFTs, tokens, the metaverse. I think it's become a capture conversation to talk about really the whole world of the technology that we're trying to represent here.
I really see it as, quite frankly, it's new to me, and I really see it as opportunity for direct audience engagement with like our programming, like our animation, where we can have a direct relationship that includes community and ownership within that community and opportunities to tell stories differently and more interactively.
So Web 1 is reading, Web 2 is putting your stuff on the internet, posting your selfies. Web 3 is ownership, but that means it matters again. I'm a fan of Web 1, so I think with ownership, in a good way, we can take the best parts of Web 1, erase the worst parts of Web 2. Yeah, so it's the ownership and the potential of just revaluing the most important thing in the world, which is the internet.
I'd say that Web3 to me is a single point of democratization of access and interoperability and literally just being able to share on a worldwide platform without the common restrictions that we're used to with gated platforms with usernames and passwords. So when we log into something with a MetaMask account and we use that same address to log into a virtual world or maybe even to get you into an event at South by Southwest, to me that's Web3. It's just all in one place. It's pretty beautiful.
I don't know what Web3 is. I think it's interesting technology, and when you talk about Web 1 and Web 2, there's good things and the potential's there, and then it goes another way. And I think Web 3 has incredible potential. I think there's also things that I'm cautious about looking at the past, and I think that we're all here to sort of figure out what that future could be and try to shape that in a more positive way.
So let's talk first about Bento Box and what Bento Box is doing in this space and where the potential is for forward motion.
I'll take a slap at it, then I'll give it to Ben. Look, Bento Box is a sister company to Blockchain Creative Labs, so we kind of helped birth it. For us, working with Michael, trying to find the right shows for the Fox network and for Tubi, our ultimate goal is the next Simpsons on Fox will be developed on the blockchain from creators that'll be owned by the artists, owned by the fans, and owned by us. That's the goal. what we're doing today, as you can see out there, Ace Studio, which Ben can talk about, is our TikTok channel we've launched for young artists. So how do we really engage with our fans, have the fans really connect? And I'm really fascinated to learn more about art blocks, because I think how do we use this new technology to find the next storytellers? Everything we do starts with a creator. It's guys like Tommy, it's guys like Ben, and we're searching for the next Lauren Bouchard, the next Mike Judge, and those people are using these tools. So for us, giving these tools to the artist, having them tell stories, build community, and then we can engage them in that community. We can then directly engage, and we can then work with Michael to say, okay, how do you now turn this into a series and a story? So to me, it's a way, one, to find the next creator, put it on the air, but also I'm super excited because a first-time creator can have true value. If you sell a show to a streamer today, you're not going to make any money. They take it from you. It's just not equitable, and an audience member, what do you get? So I think reconnecting that bond, I think is really, to me, that's what's exciting to me. So the tools at Blockchain Creative Labs, I can then give to Ben to find great artists like Tommy, working with his technology, to Michael. So that's my back to bacon. Ben, what do you think?
Yeah, look, it's not even, I don't even think the internet and animation are related. I think they're nearly the same thing for the last 3 generations, because I was saying this earlier, Flash, which is what kind of powered, the Adult Swim generation of creators, the first Adult Swim generation of creators, was so intrinsically linked to the internet, to the point where Web 1, birthed a whole kind of a body of work, and we're just seeing that now with Brad Neely, with myself, and Bento Box is first and foremost a safe space for creators, for finding creators, for empowering creators. So Web 2, again, how is that tied to animation and Bento Box? Obviously, with animators after Web 1, they started to use YouTube, which was Web 2 for me. Again, we're working with Michael Cusack, an amazing creator who, it's the chicken or the egg, whether he's using YouTube or YouTube's using him, he's using Flash, he's just with 2 or 3 people creating animation, finding an audience, publishing it. Okay, so that gets to Web 3. What are we going to do? Well, any new creator now, just generationally, is going to be a Web 3 creator, just by the nature of obviously how this works. So we're now finding these young creators, creating that safe space, and creating platforms, again, that are going to leverage what I've been saying, the best of Web 1, and figuring out better ways of Web 2, which is obviously creating audience and engaging with an audience, creating a community. Where we've started is something with TikTok, but we want to, and it's called Ace Studio, and it's a Bento Box project. But what that's going to immediately lead to are the amazing kind of creators who are doing things like streaming and just world building on apps and platforms like Discord, which are so different than Web 2. So that might have been confusing. I'll stop here, but that's our strategy.
Which raises one question. You are trying to find the next big talent. And traditionally, we've had this, it's been pretty simple. You try and get something noticed, you try and get an agent, you try and get somebody.
That's not that simple.
Well, not that, well.
Yeah.
Oh, trust me, I know enough people in poverty going like, oh, if only it was that simple. But, it was linear. It seemed to be a very traditional way of doing it, and that finally you'd work your way up the process and you'd try and get to somebody like Michael. And, that's how somebody like Mike Judge did his, he worked through an established system. Disruptor disruptor technology is a term that's used a lot and has been used a lot for decades. But this really seems like you're bent on changing that process. But how do you then create a new process that allows you to go, here's the person that one day we can take to Michael, or here's the project we can take to somebody like Michael?
It's funny with animation, I think specifically, where if you just take a step back, there have only been a handful of signature animated shows throughout time. You can name many more dramas or comedies or features, but the truly iconic animated series, we still think of The Simpsons. It's 30 years old. Family Guy, 20 years old. Bob's Burgers is a pup in that it's 10 10 years old, but in South Park even, all of those voices were discovered in non-traditional ways. None of them, they found their way into the traditional system, but they were all unorthodox point of views who came from making their own content separate from any system, and they were discovered. And that's what gets me so excited about what Ben and Scott are doing with their TikTok program. We already have something that's come out of that's really exciting. And it's this potential for new voices that could come from anywhere. And that hopefully will come with some kind of a small community. And I think for me, what I look for and hope for is someone who has a point of view I've never seen before. And this will be an environment and pipeline for discovery of new talent. And that part's really exciting to me.
I actually have a question about art blocks, because like I'm so fascinated with your platform. Just kind of, you're I'd love to kind of talk about the creators and how you've used it, and kind of just in this process of just how it works. I mean, it's no new to Michael and I, but I think I'd love to learn more about how that works and with creators doing the same thing.
Yeah, art blocks at its very, very core is the idea that artists are creating outputs with code. And so I created a piece called the Chromie Squiggle. I often get commented like, hey, my 3-year-old could do that, or did you draw all 10,000 of them? No, I didn't draw 10,000 colorful rainbow lines. I wrote one algorithm with 30 lines of code, and that algorithm randomized 10,000 different ones. And what happens is, by randomizing them and recording them in the blockchain, they are now permanently recorded in the history of the blockchain, and up for grabs for people to learn about them, interact with them, build a community around them, and then eventually, when that community gets strong enough, as we're seeing happen with acquisition of the Larva Labs IP by Yuga Labs, that it becomes very valuable and already comes with a story and already comes with a fan base, and that's just the beginning. And that fan base is based on being able to provably own a digital asset, which I think everybody here might already know what an NFT is, but if not, the most important thing you need to walk out of here with is knowing that an NFT allows you to provably own a digital asset. And so there's 10,000 people that own 10,000 CryptoPunks, and that IP in animation can be something revolutionary because of the people that it brings with it and the stories that people have already attributed to each of these individual outputs. There are CryptoPunks that are famous for different things that are being used in different scenarios, Bored Apes, etc. That happened very organically. That didn't happen with the pressure of potentially utilizing the IP, but as it's happened, it's juicy, and there's a lot of information there for studios to make really incredible stuff with. So I'm excited that Art enables a lot of people to own something. I guess really, if you boil it down, I can write a code that creates 10,000 of something. That means 10,000 people can have the same conversation. 10,000 CryptoPunks, 2,000 people have the same conversation. And that type of economy of scale is something that we have just now started to kind of scratch the surface and see what it leads to.
Well, I mean, one of the things I think that, just to kind of spin off from that is this thing of ownership. And yes, you can create communities really easily, but we're already seeing a lot of, particularly in the music space, we've been seeing a lot of bootlegging and bands having their material sold as an NFT that somebody's just scraped Spotify and put it out there. Now, at the end of the day, while NFT provides proof of ownership, we're also talking about copyright. Now, how do you protect yourself from people taking your material and NFTing it?
So this is the beautiful part about it. If the original creator used the technology of provable ownership of a digital asset and time-stamped and copyrighted a work of audio, not a work of visual art, but audio, then you, as a creator, would be able to prove that any other use of it was illicit. And of course, we have generations of music that has happened before that's not going to be minted on the blockchain, and that's okay. We are not going to retroactively be able to document everything that's existed. Maybe one day, maybe you'll be able to actually document every song that's ever been created and assign it to the original author. But moving forward, if I produce audio and I document it by time-stamping it, forget all the speculation and the FOMO of the NFT space. You're time-stamping IP. And if I timestamp my IP, if somebody else steals it, it's actually very easy to prove that I was the first to timestamp it and that it is my content. And moving forward, I think it'll be easier as more people produce in this way.
Can you clarify for me a little bit about that? So are you saying that if I draw an image not with no audio, does that still apply? Is that?
Yep.
And so if I'm drawing an image and then it goes out to the real world and somebody's making T-shirts from that, then you get it. You can do that. You can.
I mean, something that hasn't happened yet, right? Is the legal challenge.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting
this
at.
stuff. But the blockchain doesn't supersede legal, right? I mean, legally, you own your IP. Period. So if somebody goes and makes a shirt with my squiggle, although there's some other rules, like for example, I've applied a license that allows commercialization up to $100,000 on any one of my outputs, right? That's implied. So now it's my job to go find out, oh man, you've commercialized it 150,000. Now you're in, you're not following the license. But yeah, I mean, people can go do what they want, and ultimately it's until it gets challenged that we're going to find what the meat is here.
I think it'll also be interesting with content or characters that were created before this, as opposed to content that is created right now. So, for example, Scott, Ben, and I, with Through Fox Entertainment, we just bought the Gumby estate, and Gumby's been around a long time. We have really exciting plans, guys, and. But we're going to use that character to create television shows and short form content and digital content and NFTs and I think that's going to a character that's been around for, is it 60 years?
Sure.
I think it's 60 years. It'll be interesting to see as we navigate kind of our community engagement and relaunching a character for today's audience, even though that character's been around a long time. So that I think to your question, I think that's going to be, we're going to learn a lot through that.
But Tommy, to that point, like assuming lawyers let us do it, what would be great is since we're going to reboot Gumby, imagine we say, okay, well, here's the Gumby licensing rights, right? So here's the rights to create, let's put the actual in an NFT. You can tokenize the right to do a digital derivative work or make a game, and in the smart contract, you'll have the right, you can do X, Y, Z, and so arguably somebody else can go buy the token and do that, and ultimately our residuals will be locked in. So instead of going through lawyers and doing a licensing deal, have to do it you can actually take that right, tokenize it, and all can be managed on the chain. To me, that's the exciting thing. One of the places that we want to get to, the tools we want to build through Blockchain Creative Labs is, imagine a production, Tommy, like an independent film, at every job is a smart contract. So every person you hire in your film, instead of doing independent contractor work or going to any of the payroll companies, say, okay, you're going to deliver this work for me. There's a smart contract in the exchange, and the smart contract that you've delivered it and you get paid. And so every transaction, every role can be logged in the blockchain. So one, you can know nobody can ever cheat. You can say, no, you didn't deliver that. Well, it's logged in the chain. You did the work, you got paid. And ultimately for residuals, everything is there. So if you start from the beginning, the rights live there, then everybody creating something lives there, and then the derivative exploitation is there. All of a sudden, directly in your wallet. So when somebody buys the movie, you don't have to wait for the distributor to take the money away, then have your agent go and say, you didn't count right. It's all open and verifiable. So to me, that's the future. We're going to build tools where creators like yourself can have an idea, everybody who's involved gets paid and gets a residual. To me, that's the beauty of what these tools can do. And you don't need third-party distribution companies to do it, because if you want to have that right, you want to go license your movie, well, there's an NFT right, and then if you're the next Web3 platform to want to distribute your movie, you can go pull that right down. To me, that's where we want to get to, which would be very compelling. We're so far away from that because we need a lot of great developers to build all these cool tools, but that's what's exciting to us. And I imagine then for you as a creative filmmaker, it'll just make your life a lot easier. Your fans say, Tommy, I want your next movie, so 1,000 of your top fans buy NFTs to fund your next film. You don't have to go around hustling it, and everything's through it. To me, I'm excited for these tools for your community to create great stuff, and Ben's community.
Well, I don't wait for the accountants because I know I won't get anything from the studio.
I mean, it actually seems like, in a lot of ways, animation is the perfect place to do this, because what you're talking about there is basically pipeline. And, I know enough animation studios that pipeline and process is very important, knowing everything's going from A to B to C internally. And so it's almost just kind of building that out to the whole process from first idea right through to monetization and licensing.
That's right.
I would say that, because you mentioned we're pretty far out, we are still very far out from all of this being a total all-encompassing ecosystem. But I do like to say that the static image NFT is the least friction proof of concept of this, and in and of itself has created a huge economy, right? And this is just the least friction, the one that's easiest for people to absorb and to get behind and understand. And the fact that you're going to be able to prove ownership of a frame in a movie, a entire movie, or the trilogy in the same technology, and utilize subsidiary royalties and all that based on ownership of a bunch of math, which is ideally one day we don't have to talk NFT, we don't have to talk blockchain, we literally are just talking about the media, and it's just understood that that's already built into it. So we're far away, but we're not far away with some very basic stuff that is very well proven to have been successful in this space.
Yeah, I think we're here now doing that, in that what if after you finish creating a new character for an animated show, you hit save and you also mint it? That's so exciting, I think, for a fan. It's so exciting for a creator. You're creating, very early on in the pipeline, a way to give all that work and that art value. Yeah, and I think that can then get on into sites, like I said, Discord or just the internet, and be shared with so much value and potential ownership and participation. And we can do that starting very soon with shows we're doing on Fox.
You can. I use Dr. Seuss as an example. There are the original drawings, and then there are the original drawings that don't even look like what ended up in the book, and then there's the stuff that ended up in the book and the copies, and you can go to museums or you can go to galleries and pay a bunch of money for a signed print of an original copy, but the original copy exists. If all of that had been documented, not because you wanted to sell it, let's say Dr. Seuss had no intention of gaining any kind of notoriety, but as he created something, when he saved it in Photoshop, which there was not back then, he was able to click a box and say mint as an NFT and documented that and timestamped that. That piece is going to have so much value to some nerd in the future like me that's a huge Dr. Seuss fan, that can, instead of saying, oh, is this the real one? Is this signed? Is this part of the estate? It's actually documented and authenticated and does not lose any quality over time. That piece is going to be so valuable. And just kind of one more little point on that. So in 2017, this project called the CryptoPunks came out, and they were free. The only reason, well, I think it's a brilliant work of generative art, but I'm a generative art nerd. The only reason that that project has value today is because there was documentation and provenance on the project when it was free. Because nobody was going to spend money documenting or creating provenance on a bunch of free 24 by 24 pixel JPEGs. It's the fact that over time we've been able to document that from before the time there was value. That's where the gems come out. That's where like the beautiful stuff's going to come out. And I think that's what's going to be really nice as we progress in this space.
Yeah, imagine if we could have done that for The Simpsons. That would have been so exciting. But imagine if we were doing that right now with a new show on Fox, which we are, called Crapopolis.
Yeah, we have a show from Dan Harmon, who created Rick and Morty and Community, among other things, and signature voice in comedy. And we have his next show, which will be premiering in about 6 months, called Crapopolis. Could be 7 or 8. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot. They're incredible characters, and there's a whole world. It's a family set in ancient Greece at the birth of civilization, and Dan is using it both as a family comedy, but as a way to comment on today's pop culture, to satirize today's pop culture and celebrity. And there's a lot of fun to be had, and there's a whole world to explore for audience engagement, and we're just at the early stages of figuring out how do we translate that to, I guess, your original question, which is Web3.
But we are, so because everything we do is digital, so
Yeah.
like you said, every asset is being logged in a database. So I think we walk around the gallery later, you'll see as it cycles through a lot of the art from Crapopolis. It was exactly what you said we are doing. So every piece of art is logged. Look, we have our historical software that we use, but we're now actually tying that to the blockchain database, so everything is logged. So we're going to mint everything and release it. How we do it, we're still figuring out, and that'll be coming in the future. But you'll see a lot of the art through here. So everything is being logged and timestamped, so we can then give access to the fans at the right time in the right situation.
There will be something really beautiful when you have a PFP series of 2000 that you guys create as part of your release. I'm just kind of throwing this out there. I don't know if y'all are doing this.
No, we should talk about it.
There's 2,200 out there.
Yeah.
But those PFPs that are community member pieces can make cameos in your animations in an episode and actually have so much significance for the. Again, I'm a huge nerd, and like for all of us nerds, like to be able to be introduced into something with so little friction and potentially monetize it, right? Like maybe you're not going to get a bunch of money for coming into the studio and acting, but maybe your little dude is used and you get a free NFT as a result of it or something, and that's going to be so easy, so clean, and so immersive with like a community of people that really appreciate your content, because if not, they're just not going to waste their time. There's going to be 4 trillion NFTs in a couple of years. Like, it won't even matter. The people that care about your content, you're going to know who cares about your content. You're not going to track viewership. You're going to track bids on OpenSea to see like how bad people want to interact with your IP.
Well, I have another question, if that's all right.
Go for it.
I mean, this is a great example, and there's no doubt that's going to work, but you're also dealing with people, a known IP, known people and all that stuff. I think a lot of people out here are creators, and they're kind of at a disadvantage to that, because you can leverage real-world assets. You can have commercials, you can have billboards, there's a publicity thing, but then how does an individual creator get noticed if there's 4 trillion NFTs? And how are they able to benefit from that and do that? Because I think a lot of people are here because there's a brief window when things haven't been defined, and if you're smart, and you better be smart as a creator, to figure out how you get your work out and how to engage that audience and how to make it something that you can actually live off of.
The homeostasis that will eventually hit our space is not going to be any different than the traditional art world today, for example. You're going to need a gallery to not just to sell your art, but to mentor you and to teach you how to be an artist and to get you in front of people and create a show for you. Right now, there's a supply and demand crunch, and so there might be more people, at least in August, I would say there was more people that wanted an NFT, any NFT, than the amount of NFTs that were in the space. That is going to change. Right, so eventually there's going to be too many NFTs, and you're actually going to have to A, create incredibly quality content, but B, this is where the mixture of Web 2 and the awkwardness kind of comes in, because if you're also good at engaging with an audience, and you're a kind human being, that seems to help a lot, and you're creating something cool, you create a community automatically. I mean, maybe it's not just automatic, but you engage with crypto Twitter, you engage in Discord. That may not last forever, but I think at least for another year or two, if you're really passionate about what you're doing and you're a good creator and you're willing to talk to people, a year and a half ago, I was never, there's somebody here that introduced me as an artist, Leslie Silverman, at CES this year. That was the first time I was introduced as an artist, and a year ago, I would never have considered that. And this is what the space has the potential to do, and obviously, like with Kickstarter, the first few years of Kickstarter, you would put anything on there and it would sell, and then eventually, it got noisy and it got busy, and you actually had to thrive by being a good project.
But Tommy, I think you have a following, but let's say you were just starting out in your career. I think what is the next Web3 of socials? Or how do you engage with your fans? I think it all starts with community. In a strange way, I actually think I'm more optimistic for the up and coming creator than I would be now, because I think the tools will be there if the art is good or the entertainment is good. And the tools will be there to engage for your community to find you. And then it's about it might be some old Web 2 social, but building that community, I think that becomes the essence of it, because the truth is you don't need a lot of people. If you have 1,000 people who are passionate about you as a creator, they give you $100 or something, or that can fund your content. So to me, I'm really excited because I think we'll see more great work and more. So I don't think it'll go away. Yes, I think there's a window now because it's a bit of a gold rush and nobody knows the hell's going on. But I think when these tools come around, you can be a young artist out of art school or a filmmaker in the middle of nowhere, and you know, it's not like you have to have your first album. You know, it's like musician, give your first album away to get your second album to make your money. Your first one you can do and you can own, you can control. So I'm very optimistic for the next Tommy, or even the current Tommy, to do cool stuff with their fans.
So, I mean, let's talk a little bit about Crapopolis as a case study. What was it that made this the one where you went, this is where we want to try and experiment more in this area, and to go to somebody like Dan, who's so established, and say like we want to use you to, you know, test the water in what we think is going to be the future.
I'd ask Michael. Well, Michael bought the show. I'd say, Michael,
Yeah.
Okay, please do it.
I'll start, and then we're at an exciting time just for us as a entertainment company, where, you know, we're actually, Fox Entertainment is now, we're small and nimble, where before Disney bought most of the assets around Fox, when we were a truly global, one of the biggest companies, entertainment companies in the world. Now we're kind of small and figuring out the next generation of how we're going to tell stories. And animation is a huge part of Fox and who we are, and bringing in Bento to partner with us to kind of grow what is the next signature animated content on Fox. We joke all the time. We just have to replace The Simpsons. No big deal. No problem. You know, piece of cake. But one of the ways to do it is we're an artist-driven company also, in terms of we believe in really unique and strong voices, and that can be the next generation of storytellers that come out of a creative lab that these guys have called Skunkworks. Or sometimes, you know, you work with the biggest, you know, names in comedy or creators. And Dan Harmon was coming out of Rick and Morty. I'd worked with him years before, and he is one of the first deals that we made as a new company where we have full ownership of the show, and from a business standpoint, and then Dan's brilliant. His characters are hilarious and flawed, and he's able to write comedic stories about that are highbrow and lowbrow. They have a message, but it's funny first. And he's created this whole world that seemed like a natural place to start creatively, and also we own it. And
Look, I think timing is everything, right? You know, Michael bought the show. We were lucky to start making it. Dan's fan base is here. His fan base is Comic-Con, it's technology. So, I mean, a lot of people collect these things are Dan's people. So, at first I said, Michael, we're trying to do this. Trust us. Can we play with this? And he said, let's talk to Dan. Dan bought in. And, you know, we actually, you know, we made a great deal with Dan. But look, what I'm excited about is, you know, the show's going to air. We're producing it. We talk about producing in the blockchain. Everybody's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, we're explaining it, and you explain it much better than we can. We're figuring it out. But look, it's going to air on. There's a lot of stuff out there like, oh, here's an animated show, but a lot of this stuff, well, this stuff never got bought, right? A lot of these programs, like, oh, this is the first animated show out there. It's like, well, that's because nobody wanted to air it. Here's a show everybody wants. So we're able to produce it in a way to log it, you know, and then, you know, we have a partner company called Alluvio, which which is a leader in blockchain distribution for video. We're doing our Dolly Parton concert with them on next Friday, and we're going to stream it and have an episode. So what we're excited about is Crapopolis is going to air on Fox, and then after it goes on Hulu, then you're going to be able to buy the NFT of that episode on Alluvio driving that. So, like, you're going to replace the home video idea. So right now, because you don't own an episode of television, right? You go to, you know, you rent it, right? So the idea of actually having ownership as a fan, I think that's compelling. Having, like, a whole box set, right? And then when you're done with it and you resell it, Dan will get a royalty again. So you start creating those tools. So we just felt, because of who Dan is and those tools, it's the right place for a show that people actually really want, not the exhaustive stuff nobody doesn't really want, that we can really prove how cool this stuff can be, and driving, we're going to have fans and community. We're going to do some cool stuff where fans can be engaged before the show airs. The show will air on Fox. It'll be on Hulu, and you'll go to our Luvio-powered marketplace. You'll buy the video, and so that's what's exciting. So Michael's given us the toys with the right creators to figure this out, and then that's something we're going to replicate on other shows Michael's going to do for live action, and that's the future. That's what's exciting. So leveraging this great platform. Our boss Charlie Collier talks about Fox taught America how to text on American Idol 30 years ago, right? Nobody knew what text. You'd be able to Seacrest, open the phone. He's like, press the number 9 4 times and do this and that, and you can vote. And then more people voted for the winner of American Idol than they did for the presidential election in those years. What we hope to do, leveraging the power of Michael's network, is teach people what does it mean to own a digital asset. So an NFT is a digital property. Like it's not a scam. This is for real. No different than this is a physical thing. This is your digital version is real. It has value, and we want to teach people to do that, and then use the shows we have to do that. That's what's exciting. So coming back around, Crapopolis is the perfect show to do it because he's the right person, and it's the right community to prove it. So that's what we're super excited about.
And that's one thing that I know worries people is that when you talk about NFTs and buying on the blockchain, people still there is a culture, a cultural block to thinking that digital is the same as physical. And on the film side, you've had a lot of people who'll buy a film and they think they've got it and they think they've got all the extras, and then suddenly the license changes and suddenly they don't have the film anymore. It's gone from their account, or the extras they bought haven't gone. And I come from a film background, and the one thing you know about film is that every year you lose films because material degrades. And it's not just physical, it is technology. How many people here have got a hard drive that they cannot actually access anymore because they can't find a cable that fits it? Yeah. Let's face it, all of you. And this question, how do you go around ensuring that in 5 years' time, well, people will still be able to access it, but right now that you can guarantee, you can get over that fear that in 5 years' time, whatever they're buying from you on the blockchain is still going to be accessible, because people, even if it does work, people have been burnt so many times that they're worried about it.
Well, it's a decentralized ledger. It's the whole purpose of decentralization is no one person can take it down. That's the beauty of a blockchain. Once it's out there, it's immutable.
To add to that, there are a lot of blockchains, and not all of them are going to have the moving power. So we have to be very careful also which blockchains that we interact with. And there's probably 10 viable ones today, and maybe those are 10 viable ones in 10 years. I'm a maximalist with Ethereum because it's the most decentralized blockchain besides Bitcoin, and enables the NFT to exist. And when you say what is it going to look like in a few years, well, let's just hope that blockchains still exist. What's different though about a blockchain is that the Ethereum blockchain is controlled and documented by thousands of people. There are thousands of people that have the same information and all have that data record that says that you own this NFT. So even if let's say blockchains fall apart in 10 years, there's actually going to be thousands of records of that. I don't see the technology going away. I don't think one day we're going to wake up and be like, oh man, I really enjoy this lack of friction and this immediate documentation, but let's just go back to just putting everything on a server that could collapse and lose all of our data. It's just not going to happen. But let's say that it did. At least you're going to find all the information on one document, not all of the information dispersed between Shutterstock and the hundreds of other platforms that you might be able to buy a photograph from. So the longevity there, I think, is very important because the documentation won't change unless you change it. That's the beauty of Web3. Nothing can happen without your credentials, unless you're scammed, which happens often. So be careful. Don't ever share your private key with anybody. But yeah, I think the provenance is really special in long term.
Before we run out of time, Tommy, can you tell us about your movie? I'm so curious, the movie you're premiering.
It's called Apollo 10.5. Richard Linklater directed it. It's the third animated film that we've made together, and it premieres tonight.
Amazing.
In fact, let's go down and because we are time to wrap up. So can everybody just do their brief pitch for where we can find out more about what it is you're currently doing? And Fox is fairly easy. We all got that at number one on our TV. So
bcl.xyz.
For me, it's artblocks.io, and you can also follow me on Instagram. My handle is art on blockchain.
You can't find me anywhere except here right now.
However, you can see Apollo 10.5 tonight at the Paramount, and then it drops on Netflix on
April 1st.
April 1st, and I've seen it, and it's great. Fully recommend it. It's a wonderful slice of Texas history, and it's Rick Linklater being pure Rick. So
Being Rick.
Yep, and you can find my stuff at the Austin Chronicle. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here this morning. This has been, I hope it's been as informative for you as it has been for me. And please give all our guests a round of applause.
Thank you.